Most people think building a workforce program is about finding grants or winning government approval. They spend months, even years, chasing grants and filling out forms. But the single biggest point of failure has nothing to do with funding. As a registered apprenticeship leader who's built many of these pathways for years, I wrote the Agile Talent Playbook to give you the one thing you actually need, a proven framework. In this video, I'm breaking down the core mission of the book and why it's the key to building your organization's talent factory this year. Let me take you back about 10 years. I'm running the speed dating round of our job fair. I'm typing in recruiter picks into a spreadsheet. Students are huddled all around me, watching live, just like an NFL draft board. And they're lighting up in real time. Every name that flashes on the screen gets cheers and high fives and fist bumps. And then off they go to 10-minute interviews one-on-one with different companies. The ones who get picked to go through an interview, they land offers within days. But the ones who don't, those are the ones who keep me up at night. They have to stay motivated and afloat through a painfully long stretch between the coding bootcamp and the first paycheck. They have to grind, and it's tough. But here's the pattern I keep seeing. The ones who hold on, they end up at a scrappy startup, and almost like clockwork, 6 months later, the huge companies come knocking with better offers. The same companies I couldn't get to show up to our job fairs are cutting big checks for talent about a year in. So one day a colleague asked me, what if you just paid them to learn? Pay them to work on real projects for about a year. That's how I discovered apprenticeship. Earn and learn. And it felt brand new and ancient at the same time. I've been writing software for almost 4 decades now, but that moment is the why that I've spent the last decade or so building registered apprenticeship programs, and why I'm so excited about the future of apprenticeship degrees. Because no American should have to choose between college and a job. Now let me tell you why most programs never get there. Paul leads a nonprofit in healthcare, a space with untold workforce challenges. He's won the planning grants, he's had the initial funding that everybody's chasing, and on paper, he's set up to succeed. A few years ago, I'm on a call with him, offering to help with employer outreach, and I'm not getting anywhere. He's distracted, he's full of questions, he's focused somewhere else. Fast forward a few months, Paul tells me he's now signed a contract with this big intermediary. They have promised him the world. We'll bring the companies to the table, they say. He'd found a way to outsource the hard part. Except employer engagement is not an easily outsourced project. Tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. The promises weren't kept. His program stalled in the registration and the implementation phase, not because the money ran out, but because no employers were on board. Every time I checked in, same story, same struggles. The grant dollars were there. The demand wasn't yet. Watching that taught me something that I had learned the hard way myself. Waiting around for someone else to build the solution doesn't work. When you run programs, you have to do all of the uncomfortable parts, the cold asks, identifying partners, understanding their business problems well enough to make a deal happen. You need to know all of the people inside and all of the people outside. Nobody sells your mission, your program to a decision maker better than the person who built it. It just can't be outsourced. Here's what we did early on, without even knowing it was a strategy. We started on the demand side with one simple question to companies. If I train someone to do this work, would you hire them? We kept the stakes low. We asked for about $1,500 as a payment of intent for us to experiment with a new pathway and a couple of apprentices. And it worked. We trained them, they interviewed, they got hired, the company came back for more. Rinse and repeat. You have to do the hard part first. The scaling, the full cohorts, they come. But they come through the work. You can't wish away the hard part. I was recently talking to a colleague at a workforce board, and it became clear that only a few people on their team even knew the fundamentals of apprenticeship, let alone how to sell it through the lens of a company. And that's not a knock on them, because apprenticeships are very complicated. It takes a while to get your head around how it's done in the US. A generic outreach and consortium building strategies, they won't cut it. I really could have used a playbook like this to get me where I am today so much faster. So I wrote it. The Agile Talent Playbook is that framework. Every chapter is a play, a scenario you're living right now, and the strategic move and a clear path to execution. It's all in each chapter. It translates apprenticeship out of workforce jargon and into the language of business. And this approach is proven. We've worked with 6 Fortune 500 companies to build high-quality programs in IT. We've generated over $2 million in revenue from companies, not grants, actual contracted services for our first 4 years. And more than 93% of our graduates, alumni placed into roles are still working in the industry. That's what demand first looks like. So who is this book for? If you're a funder or a policymaker, this book will change what you measure. You're probably going to want to prioritize pay for performance. Treat business outreach and scaling employer demand as the most critical leading indicators of success. Not enrollment numbers, not a list of funders and dollars committed. A program with signed contracts and business demand is healthier than a funded program with a full classroom and no companies wanting to hire. If you're a workforce board leader or nonprofit executive, this is the playbook that I wish someone had handed to me 10 years ago. It will save you years. And if you're a business, this book is written in your language about your bottom line. If you're ready to start building, the first step is conversation. I've opened up my calendar for complimentary 20-minute sessions. The link is in the description to download the ebook and to book a call. And here's a challenge for funders. Ask your program officers to explain how their grantees scale industry demand. If the room goes quiet, that's the gap. And it's exactly what I speak to teams about. The link is below.